Hey guys, and welcome to another episode. Today in this video, we're going to be installing a roll cage in the Mini. Now inside the car, I've got Sam, one of my friends, and he's working on taking off the little ridges that are holding in place the rear seats. So when I had the rear seats in the car, there's these two little pegs that are in there that hold down the bottom part where you sit down. And we're taking that out so we can mount up this roll cage. So the cage is mounting up there in the back, there in the front, and the same thing on the other side. And if we come inside the car, we've got this little part right here that we already took out. That was in place for the rear seat. We've got the same thing on the driver's side of the car. And then the back part rests on that little cross brace. So we're gonna have to take all the stuff out and get this ready to be welded into the car.
So at this point, what we have right here is Sam. He's got a drill with a bit on the end of it, and he's trying to remove the welds on each one of these little tabs found in the back seat. So these little things are what I was talking about that hold the rear seats in place. So the factory seats clip into both of these, and we're using a drill just to take out the little welds that are securing it. So he's gonna be drilling out the ones on the front and the ones on the rear, the little welds, for the passenger and the driver's side. And once he's done that, he's gonna grab a vacuum, clean everything up so all those shavings aren't gonna be in the way. Next up comes testing up the roll cage to see if it's going to mount up properly. So I picked up this roll cage from Sneed for Speed, and because it's a prefabbed kit, they sent this all in one piece. So I'm first throwing it inside the Mini to see how it actually sits inside the car. So the game plan is we want it to fit up in the car and have it basically perfectly level, no gaps or whatever, without having it welded in. Once it's perfectly level, then we'll go from there and weld it in place and get it ready. Now it also comes pre-painted from them, so they paint everything up from the roll cage to the feet, where the feet mount up to the chassis of the car. Now because it's painted, we're going to need to sand that down, and as you can see, we're using a grinder with essentially a wire wheel to get rid of any paint that's on the feet. So those little plates on the bottom, those are going to be mounted up to the car. Now, I don't know if it was because of how they welded it up or how they installed or built this cage. I don't know why, but the feet, all four of them, weren't completely level. So right here, Sam and I were getting a little piece of metal that we're going to be grinding up, cleaning up, and welding that to one of the feet so that when we install it on the car, it's going to be perfectly level. I don't know if it was just my kit that's like that or if it's the quality of whatever their work is. I don't know, but that's how it is. Now, I opted for the Weld-in cage. They also have a bolt-in cage. I'm guessing the bolt-in cage is going to be a lot nicer to work with because if it has this lack of tolerance, I guess, the one like the cage that I have, if I were to get this exact cage for the bolt-in one, it wouldn't quite work up properly. Now, before we get ready and do any kind of welding on the Mini, I'm going to grab a 10mm ratchet and take out the negative terminal for the battery. So when you're welding, you're essentially making an electrical circuit. The electricity is going to want to take the easiest path as possible. Now, if that easiest path is, say, through the car, and you're completing the circuit through the electrical system, you have the chance of short-circuiting an ECU or any kind of controller that you have in the vehicle. That's why I'm disconnecting the negative battery terminal so we don't have the possibility of frying the car.
So what Sam and I are up to right now is we're getting this roll cage ready to be mounted in the car. So when we got this cage from Sneed for Speed, we noticed that it wasn't completely level. So when they were welding each one of the feet in place, I don't know, something twisted or whatever, but we have to add this little plate in between the roll cage and the body of the car for it to align properly and for it to be flush. So that's what Sam's doing right now. He's going to be using the MIG welder to weld this plate up to the actual roll cage.
When you start your machine, you want to hit the trigger a bit just to purge the gas out of the line, or to actually fill up the line so that your first little bit of weld is actually shielded and not filled with porosity. So we're going to try this, see if it works. We'll see.
So we're doing a little test panel right now to see if this gauge steel makes a nice weld.
So before actually welding on the vehicle, what we're going to do first is we're going to test out a little piece of steel. We're going to weld it together. Now both of these pieces are relatively similar size to the vehicle that we're welding all this onto. So we're going to first give this a test because we want to get the wire speed out of the welder correct. We want to get the voltage correct, and Sam's going to try and get down his hand speed all nice so that we get a nice perfect weld on each one of the legs. So we're going to be giving a couple of tests here. If anything needs to be changed, we're going to change the voltage and the wire speed accordingly, and we're going to go from there. Next up, we've got to get that little piece of metal underneath the one leg so that we get the roll cage to be fully even and square. So this little piece of steel is going to be able to correct the cage's unevenness. When it comes to welding it, what we're going to do is we're going to tack weld each one of the 4 corners in place so that the little piece doesn't move. And then once all 4 are done, Sam's going to go ahead and weld the beads along each one of the sides so it's properly fused together. So just to give you an idea, this is how long it's taking Sam to just weld up one little side of that foot. Now that the cage is ready to go, we need to go ahead and prep the car so the cage is ready to be mounted in. So we already tested it to make sure that the roll cage is going to be in the proper spot. Now before we go any further, we need to clean up any of the metal that's on the car where the roll cage is going to get mounted to. So we need to bring it down to bare metal, and I'm using an angle grinder right here with the proper disc just to clean up the paint so it's bare metal so the roll cage can be welded in nicely. Now next up, we're going to be just doing a couple tack welds with the cage in place, and that's just going to position it so that it's not going to move. So we're going to tack weld each corner so the cage isn't going anywhere. And then from there, Sam's going to be doing the beads, kind of like what Sam did to make that little mount for the bottom part of the roll cage in place. So it's tack, 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 and then you're doing the beads for each one of them.
Sam, brief on it. It's not going anywhere. So I towed the car back home, and the cage is in. Now we've got all 4 of the legs for the cage all mounted in. And right now, all of this is all bare metal. So I've got to clean this up, and I'm eventually going to paint it the same color as the body. So from probably here down, I'm going to clean up, get rid of all the paint, mask off from here up, and then everything that you'll see down here is all going to be the same color. So I'm going to clean all this goop, all the bare metal on each one of the feet. I'm going to clean all that up and make it look good. But the cage, as it stands, is in. Cage isn't going anywhere. Properly mounted. Now, I can continue on with more interior mods, such as seats, steering wheel, harnesses, and all that stuff, now that the roll cage is installed. As for the roll cage, is it necessary? No, but it's an extra peace of mind. Because I'm going to be taking the car to the track and I'm going to be driving the car hard, in the event that the car rolls, I'd rather have it so that I know that I'm going to be properly safe, bolted up, strapped in the vehicle with nice seats and a nice roll cage should it happen. Now, big shout out goes to Sam for helping me out with installing this cage. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, but the car is good to go. Now, I could have gone with a regular bolt-in kit, but that's not going to be as strong nor as safe as a properly welded in cage. Now, Sam, when he tacked up the 2 front parts of the cage to the car, we just, we tried to like reef on it to see if it'd move, and nothing really was happening. We tacked down the other 2 in the back, and that cage wasn't moving at all. And that's just with like the little dot welds on each one of the corners. Now, if you consider that each one of those like little feet has a bead of weld along each one of the sides, this cage isn't going anywhere. This is properly mounted in the car. Now, as for the interior, I'm going to be continuing up and installing more stuff now that this is in, but we've got the ball rolling. Mini's getting more mods done. If you guys have any questions regarding the video, throw them down in the comment section below, and I'd be more than happy to help. Again, guys, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.